Dario, you've said that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment to 10 to 20%. How soon might that happen?
Well, well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. But just to back up a little bit, I've been building AI for over a decade. And I think maybe the most salient feature of the technology and what is driving all of this is how fast the technology is getting better. A couple of years ago, you could say that AI models were maybe as good as a smart high school student. I would say that now they're as good as a smart college student and sort of reaching past that. I really worry, particularly at the entry level, that the AI models are very much at the center of what an entry level human worker would do. And so it's hard to estimate, exactly what the impact would be. And there's always this question of adaptation. And these technology changes have happened before, but I think what is striking to me about this AI boom is that it's bigger and it's broader and it's moving faster than anything has before. And so compared to previous technology changes, I'm a little bit more worried about the labor impact simply because it's happening so fast that yes, people will adapt, but they may not adapt fast enough. And so there may be an adjustment period.
You are running an incredibly important company in AI, and you know this better than anybody, or as well as all the names we know, people, Sam Altman and others who are working, Elon Musk in AI. Why are you raising the alarm? Because it's not necessarily, I would think, in your best interest, because a lot of the messages we hear from, at least publicly, from some AI CEOs and stuff is a little bit more calming, like, these agents are going to be great in your life, and yes, there may be problems, but writ large, this is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I'm raising the alarm is that I think others haven't as much, and I think someone needs to say it. To be clear, and I recognize it's always a difficult balance, right? I'm aware of my position that I'm building this technology while also expressing concerns about it, and the reason I'm doing both of those things is, one, I think the benefits are massive, and we need to find a way to achieve the benefits and mitigate or prevent the harms. And the second thing I would say is, look, there are, as you mentioned, 6 or 7 companies in the U.S. building this technology, right? If we stop doing it tomorrow, the rest would continue. If all of us somehow stopped doing it tomorrow, then China would just beat us. And I don't think China winning in this technology is, I don't think that helps anyone or makes the situation any better.
I do want to read something that Sam Altman, your former boss at OpenAI, said in September. He was saying that AI can cause significant, in his words, significant change in labor markets, good and bad. He went on to say that most jobs will change more slowly than most people think. And then he said this, and I want to just read it word for word. He said, many of the jobs we do today would have looked like trifling wastes of time to people a few hundred years ago. But nobody is looking back at the past wishing they were a lamplighter. If a lamplighter could see the world today, he would think the prosperity all around him was unimaginable. And if we could fast forward 100 years from today, the prosperity all around us would feel just as unimaginable. For younger people, I should say lamplighters was actually a job. People went around lighting lamps on the streets. I think a lot of people may not even know what a lamplighter is. But do you think Sam Altman is wrong?
Yeah, so, I think there are some things I agree with about that, and then there are some things that I think are too optimistic. So, I definitely agree that, AI, if we succeed at it, can grow the pie greatly, right? I wouldn't be surprised if economic growth is much higher than it is today as a macroscopic phenomenon, right? That AI allows society as a whole to be more productive. So
let me just say, because you've previously in the past said you've described a future where cancer is cured, the economy grows at 10% a year, the budget is balanced, and 20% of people don't have jobs.
That's exactly what I was getting to, right? Where I agree with all the positive potential. I think that isn't wrong. But I think the quote you just flashed is maybe too optimistic, maybe too sanguine about the ability for people to adapt. People have adapted to past technological changes, but I'll say again, everyone I've talked to has said this technological change looks different. It looks faster. It looks harder to adapt to. It's broader. The pace of progress keeps catching people off guard. And so I don't know exactly how fast, the job concerns are going to come. I don't know how fast people are going to adapt. It's possible it'll all be okay, but I think that's too sanguine an approach. I think we do need to be raising the alarm. I think we do need to be concerned about it. I think policymakers do need to worry about it. If they do worry and they do act, then maybe we can prevent it. But we're not going to prevent it just by saying everything's going to be okay.
Do we as a society even understand the potential inequalities that this may amplify? And also the impact just on what, like I have little kids, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. What do they grow up aspiring to if machines can do pretty much everything better? What does it do to initiative or drive or striving? And I don't know the answer to that,
Yes.
but it concerns me.
Let's take those questions one by one. Those do concern me, but I do have thoughts on them. In terms of inequality, I'm worried about this. There's an inherent social contract in democracy where ultimately, the ordinary person has a certain amount of leverage because they're contributing to the economy. If that leverage goes away, then it's hard to make democracy. It's harder to make democracies work, and it's harder to prevent concentration of power. And so, we need to make sure that the ordinary person maintains economic leverage and has a way to make a living, or our society, our social contract won't work. And that's why I think it's important.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones. And we've had this type of conversation before. Probably at least once or twice a year we have this type of conversation. But it's a bit different this time. In the past, we talked about the black middle class being wiped out by 2050, black wealth, the median wealth for black households becoming zero. And we also talked about a useless class that could be created with the coming technology. Now, getting more detailed with it, because this clip is saying 20% of the jobs could be replaced by AI. Entry-level jobs, blue-collar jobs, service jobs, those types of jobs could be replaced with AI. And some articles that I pulled up is saying that estimates suggest that up to 60% of current jobs will require significant adaptation due to AI, and like 30% of the jobs could be gone or taken by AI. So you know how my mind works and how our conversations go over here. Well, what the hell that mean for black folk? Because if we always talking about when America catches a cold, black people get syphilis. So if we always saying that, how does the coming of AI positively or negatively affect the black community, black Americans, especially with the doom that's being predicted to come toward us economically already? Now, especially those who've been watching the book readings, 2 weeks ago, we're reading Black Labor, White Wealth, and Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about, he predicted by 2013 how a lot of jobs that black people hold will be replaced by technology. And that held true, and it still holds even more true as we move forward, because the people who are working in tech spaces are sounding the alarms. Now, of course, we know we're not paying attention. The bulk of black people not paying attention because we're worried about what's going on with Diddy, DDG, and all the other crazy stuff that's going on in the celebrity world. So a lot of black people are going to be blindsided by how the job market is going to be changed. And it's not going to be changed in favor of the people who don't have the skills to translate toward the future. A useless class will be created. And the question is, will you or will we be a part of this useless class? And that's what we're going to dive into today. But before we dive deep on into that, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit that like button. If you don't, see them fingers. If you don't, you already know what it is. Joe Biden told me to tell you that you don't like black people and you support black people losing their jobs. So make sure you hit that like button. And you can hit the super like button as well. I didn't know it was inactive, but it's back activated. So you can do that as well. So Pat, I'm gonna start with you because you the tech, now you are a tech guru. Out of the three of us, you the tech guru. I know you already on this. I know you already know about this. I know you've been reading on this, man. So let's dig into it, man. Like, first, let's just talk about overall. Like, what do you think about the coming of AI and the restructuring of the job market? And let's talk about the overall, but then talk about how do you think that restructuring of the job market would negatively or could negatively impact the jobs that Black people hold in America?
Well, I think because Black people are always behind the curve, chasing the curve. In this situation, when we're looking at AI, there is no after the curve. If we look at it in terms of spatial anomalies, you know, everything not in front of the supernova is wiped out by it.
Right.
And so I look at AI in kind of the same vein. It's funny, PC and I was talking about this earlier, because it's not just the development of AI as a software, but it's also the development of quantum computing as a processing component, meaning as in terms of quantum computers, physically, the structure of them.
And they're evolving.
Right. And so these are, in terms of quantum computing, yes, there are degrees and stuff that you could go into to get into that field. But in terms of AI, a lot of the advancements and a lot of the people that are really putting things together and figuring things out, in my opinion, are not going to be people that graduated with a degree in AI programming. Because those programs don't really exist yet. And so we're focused a lot on the computer science sectors and the technology sectors, but the way that we're integrating into these sectors is not in a way that puts us at the forefront of this particular movement. And in a lot of regards, computer science as a degree is being basically overloaded with the amount of people graduating with a computer science degree. So for Black people, I think what this means is there's already a lag. And we got to remember, like employment numbers and all of these other things, these are lagging indicators. They give us a picture of essentially of the past.
Right.
So by the time we start seeing it in the numbers, it's already far worse in the present. By the time we start seeing the fact that Black people are being left behind by the technological development of the American society, it's going to be too late. Yeah. And we're, in my opinion, we're already there. There aren't enough Black people engaged in understanding AI. And a lot of it too is because the market is already outpriced Black people. In order to get like for instance, the computer that I built to help me do the AI stuff that I do, right? The graphics card alone 3 years ago was $2,400. That's expensive as hell.
Yeah.
How many Black people even have that to spend on a singular computer part? And then how many of them that have it are willing to actually spend it on a singular computer part? And I say that not as a way of bragging, but as a way of saying, like, it's the shit in terms of getting, it's like when marijuana went legal and everybody was like, Black people are going to jump on. And then you started figuring out the cost component of legal marijuana and all of the other components.
Also, we learned, like we talked about last week, we learned that that owning your own thing doesn't mean you have independence or control.
Right. And so even with that, because a lot of the times we're thinking about a lot of the young Black people that I encourage to get into AI are now getting into AI by way of trying to utilize scripts with ChatGPT. And one, that is leasing an AI product. That is not owning or developing an AI, because you have no access or ChatGPT and some components of it are open source, but you really don't have a look at the logic model. You can't alter the logic model. And in order to do that, you would have to download some variation of ChatGPT onto your computer and begin to play around with it that way. And again, like I said earlier, how many people have the finances to be able to put together a computer powerful enough to create their own localized AI model? So there are a bunch of barriers to entry. And then if you can't get in, look, Bill Gates is at the forefront of computers because he had access to computers before everybody else. His dad worked, I believe it was at MIT or at some university where Bill Gates had access to computers as a 7th or 8th, as a middle schooler. And he was able to go in the lab with his dad and program computers at 7, 8 years. That gave him a competitive advantage. The people that are doing that with AI now, they started doing that 10, 15 years ago. Like maybe even 20 years ago, they started doing that. So as far as Black people are concerned, what we can do, what we need to try to do is try to, like, okay, if we're going to say the AI ship is sailed, one, we need to be getting our kids. It turns into a whole thing. I'm not going to, because I know we got more show to go, but I think one of the things we really need to do is we really need to stop assuming that our kids are computer literate because they grew up around computers.
Yes. No, they know how to use devices. That doesn't mean they're computer literate.
Yes. Our kids, speaking specifically to millennials, your children are less computer literate than you are. They know less about technology than you do. And for the tech savvy Gen Xers, they know less about computers than them too. They might know how to work the latest app on their smartphone, but if you really sit them in front of a computer, they don't know what they're doing. And that is problematic when you start looking at things like AI and quantum computer and the technological development of a society.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. All right. PC. So you are an educator. You work in education. You know, background in therapy, mental health. You work with people of all ages. You work with people from different backgrounds, you know, so you have the experience of dealing with people on a real human level. And you also understand the power of employment, like being able to feed yourself. So what are your thoughts on, from, you know, taking into account your background and your interaction with the people you've been able to interact with on your path? How do you feel like AI will negatively impact the job market for the Black community, or even like the growth of entrepreneurship, or even some kind of technology being created within the Black community?
Well, first of all, you were right about Pat. Pat got like 6 screens up.
Yeah.
You're like a goddamn hacker.
Batman.
But what is the saying? If you don't plan your future, then someone else will plan it for you. And we often say we don't have the attention span to plan past the weekend in most cases, or a cruise 3 months from now that we have to put money to every month to get to. We're not focused on the future. One of the biggest issues I always had, especially with the woke crowd, right? And is how fast they wanted to get the shit over with so they can get back to partying. Like how fast they wanted to get the work done. Listen, y'all, we're going to buy black for one day. We're going to black out for one day and show them our economic might. And then on Thursday, we're going to be meeting up at the after hours. You know, we don't really plan for the future of the community. So it's going to be planned out for us. They're talking about things like, UBI being one of the possible responses to this whole movement of technology and the elimination of entry-level jobs. You remember during the coronavirus, these entry-level positions mainly held by most, Black people or people who were from poor social, I'm say poor, poor social and economic backgrounds. Let's not, mix it up, skirt it. They were conned into believing they were essential workers, so the society didn't completely shut down and people had the opportunity to go to the stores. But what happened was that was how the biggest way that the coronavirus actually spread toward the Black community. See, our lack of a preparedness in terms of insulating ourselves put ourselves in positions to where we literally, we didn't know at that time it could have been the plague that rocked society to its core. We don't plan. So because of that, you got kids in school right now getting college degrees, but they don't even know the projections, career projections of the degrees they're getting. So it's cool if you get a degree in basket weaving, but I don't know where you're going to get a job weaving baskets. And then one that was certainly, worth the money you're just spending, and the loans you'll take years paying back to get it. The crazy part is, and Dr. Claude Anderson called it out. It was the first name I thought about when I saw the clip. Technology is the enemy to Black people right now because Black people are so far behind.
Right.
And I mean, you made mention of it earlier. We're so far behind that we can't even see the smoke from, all the things that are blazing the trail ahead. And because of that, and we would rather sit here and debate this rather than address the problem and fix it, we are not going to be prepared for when the crash comes. The joke, winter's coming. Well, winter's here, and it's just getting started. And it's going to affect the entire planet. And because we don't have the infrastructure, we're going to be just like it was back in 2020, begging places to stay open so our kids have access to food. So, because if you paid attention, you go to certain places, they had the beta AIs working. You go into a fast food restaurant. I did a lot of traveling. All those
kiosks,
they were replacing workers. They already had like a totally, I heard, I'm not sure if it's for real, and a totally automated McDonald's in Texas somewhere. So where all they needed was somebody to make sure the machine was functioning. You know how many young people whose first job was in a fast food establishment like that? And for some of them, they had to live life, who had to go out there and become adults before their age, or have adult-like duties before their age. You know how many of them are dependent on jobs like that don't require any skills? They only require your attention, your attentiveness, and your hours of service. So you remove all of those jobs. And I don't know how we didn't see it coming, because it's been going on for over a decade with the automated checkout lines in the stores. It's been going on. They're talking about replacing nurses, like basic hospital visits with AIs. You do a virtual AI visit.
Yeah, telehealth.
Yeah. And so all the things that we're talking about is going to be going. So when we were talking about that they're wiping out jobs, and that when they wipe out these jobs, it's not just because there's a dip in the market. They're wiping out these jobs because these jobs are obsolete. That was one of the things we were talking about earlier. Me and Pat were talking about earlier with, some guy came to the school last year and he did a presentation, and people really didn't understand what he was saying. But he said, if you understand what's going on in technology, then 80 something, he had a specific day, like 87 days from now, everything that's current and trending in technology, 87 days from now, it'll be obsolete. Now, obsolete is a big stretch, but what he's saying is the technology is moving so fast that every 87 days, there's an advancement of it. So if we're not even interested and we can barely get our kids to go to school, we'll make school a habitable environment or educate our children at home. What prospects do we have out here that are going to create a future for not just the children, but for the people who have to build the foundation for the children? And with that, I'll land my plane.
Man, I saw a video earlier today. I was listening to tech folk talk about AI. And one of the gentlemen was talking about like the advancement and how it can improve itself. And then, you was talking about every 87 days. Well, on the one I was talking about was like every 7 days. It's getting up to the point where it can do it. It's getting close to where it can do it every 7 days.
Well, hold on. I said that was a year ago. Me and Pat was also talking about the acceleration part.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. That's the continuation of it, right? So now, if it's true what he's saying, it's getting up to every 7 days. And then in the clip that we showed, like PC is saying, AI is proving fast. And they're saying it's right now, AI is as smart as a college student. Right. So what percentage of Black people go to college? Because I'm looking at, I just Googled it. It's a 2022 stat that's saying about 39% of Black adults ages 25 and older had attained a associate's degree or higher. So I'm sure it's probably fallen a bit since 2022, right? But let's just stick with that number. 39% of Black Americans are going to college. 39% of the 13% is going to college. And so that means the majority of Black people don't have the academic foundation to maybe possibly keep up with AI. It depends on what their at-home environment is. It depends on what their mind is like, their creativity. Because taking into account, even if you aren't highly educated as far as the traditional way, but you're taking the time to educate yourself on technology, you've built skills. Because as Pat was saying earlier, you get a degree in social work, but you don't have any skills versus the person who doesn't have a degree but has actual skills and skills that are transferable to the technological future. That person will be in a better place. Now, the point I'm making is we're falling behind educationally already, right? They're already complaining about Black kids can't read, Black kids aren't doing good in school, Black kids are failing academically, the education system is failing Black kids, the parents are failing Black kids, the teachers are failing them, the community is failing them. So our kids are already at an academic disadvantage, at an economic disadvantage, at a resource disadvantage at this rapidly changing future. And jobs are going to change, like you're saying. If what I was looking at, it was talking about the types of jobs. So what it says: office support, production work, food service, mechanical installation and repair. Those are some jobs that they identify. And this is the McKinsey Institute. The article is the impact of generative AI on Black communities.